and he tackled Ari's hair in the sink.
You might have seen that. Ari had lots of hair.
Yeah.
You're like, this is a little bit thicker.
Lots of 4C hair, and I was sweating.
Brad put a bolly in the back of her hair, and I was like, what are you thinking? Like, she can't sleep with that in the back of her hair. And then you were like,
yes, we can. We just do it uncomfortable.
if white people had to walk a day having 4 curl pattern hair, the whole world would be different. We couldn't do it. We would never be able to do it. We would whine, we'd complain, bonnets would be normalized all the time.
Welcome to the Hey There Parenthood podcast. I'm Jeena.
And I'm Drew.
And Hey There Parenthood is the podcast that fosters a diverse, inclusive village
For raising confident and loving children.
So we're so excited today because we have the Williams family on our podcast today. They are a open, adoptive, transracial. Oh man, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Open, adoptive, transracial, adoptive family. No, I said that twice. You have to fix it.
I was just going to add that Brad does all the hair care. That's all I was going to fit in there.
But they're a really cool family that I've been following Brad for like a couple of years now.
We're so excited to hear about their journey and their open adoption. We kind of want to pick their brain a little bit about what made them choose open adoption and why they're open to learning more about like Black culture and being transracially adopted. So when we're talking open adoption, like the biological parents are coming into their home.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, mostly because it kind of sets the standards of like the children understanding like these are both my parents, these are both people who are really important. There's no like separation. And I think that's really important for a lot of adoptees to kind of see that inclusiveness of including them in their family. It's not just like, oh, they're someone who gave birth to you and they're someone important. No, not only are they important, but they're part of our family. And I love that because I mean, I wish that all adoptees could have that, some type of that in their own family. And so it's really nice to see a family who's already doing that.
Yeah. So welcome, guys. We're glad to have you today.
I'm Brad Williams.
I'm Sarah Williams. We're married. We've been married, I don't know, it'll be 11 years in December. Right. We have, do you want me to take this? I'll start with that because actually Brad started this social media account. I guess it was right around COVID, right?
It was in the pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would be like outside because again, I'm the outside like social person, and people would be like, "Hey, so I saw your husband has like 1,500 followers on TikTok." So, and I'm like, "Oh, it's so embarrassing, right? Like 1,500 followers." And then by the end of the summer, it was like, "So your husband's up to 30,000 followers on TikTok," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. Like, what is he doing on this platform?" I don't even think I had TikTok, right? Like, I didn't know what he was doing, but he's very creative and very, he's just so good at that stuff, right? So, and I thought, well, he's just creating these videos and we can watch our kids grow up through these videos. And I'm like a Facebook person because I'm old, right?
That's okay. Me too.
Yeah. So I had Instagram that I maybe posted to like 4 times a year. And so, but anyway, and then I kind of realized that he was making these connections, right, through making these videos, and where I am kind of more external, where I would want to make connections in community for our kids or out there in person, and Brad was kind of like hiding behind the scenes and doing this behind the scenes. So
I don't remember starting it specifically for that. I was just like, I feel like I've been doing videos, like editing videos since Bryce, my oldest, was young. It was just something I enjoyed doing. Like, we'd go sledding and I'd do a video and I'd edit it and make it look funny. And so when I started joining TikTok, I was like, I'll just create videos of my family so we have like memories to go back on. And then I remember thinking, we have these Black children. Like I need to build a community to help us with that. And so that's kind of when I started like being more intentional about trying to build that community. And now we have like this huge community of people.
Yeah, so now nobody's talking about how many followers in the neighborhood Brad has anymore. Now it's kind of like one of those things where if you don't know. And so I think then we kind of started looking at this platform and saying like, what can we do with it, right? Like, what can we do? You have this huge following, like, what can we do? And I think that's when we started kind of shifting the focus to kind of showing our openness, right? Like if we can kind of educate the community or the people out there on what that looks like from our point of view, then maybe we can help some people, right? Like navigate
People
what they're
still, a
going
lot of
through.
people still don't understand like what open adoption is and why it's important. So I feel like that was really like something that we were intentional about, trying to put some of our stories out there that highlight that could make others aware that might be considering adoption, and why it's so important to involve your children's family and where they were.
Right.
Yeah, I think
so-
for me, it was just, I think because I know y'all were like an adopted family, but I didn't know y'all were an an open adoption family until there was a video with your children's first parent, like living with y'all. I was like, nuh-uh. Like, what?
Yeah.
Which was amazing, because I think anyone who's even open to the idea or even thinks of the idea of open adoption, it's more of like a couple of pictures, a couple of visits. And then when I saw like you guys, like it's like a family.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't even feel like, because
But I mean, for me, like, it doesn't even have to be the adoption part either. Like letting someone in your home,
that's a big
as
deal.
an adult or kid. Like we've talked about it all the time. Like if even our own family, like if my mom has to come stay with us, like we figure out like what are we gonna do with mom when she comes? Where do we put her? So you know, I know we're on open adoption, but that's just even, I feel like, another level to it, you know?
And I think that, so I guess to start, like Brad had, when I met Brad, he had a son from a previous relationship, which people I think on our social media platform think Bryce is mine, but he's not. I mean, I'll claim him because I met him when he was about 5, so I've been around a long time, but he has, everybody in our family has other mothers, right? So I'm just one of the other mothers, but and then so we have Sam and Anaya, and then Jasmine came into our life in 2021 because again we one of our adoptions turned into a foster care case, so we had to become licensed in January of 2019. So we've just kind of kept that open, and then we were approached, and they were like, "Do you want a sibling set?" And we were like, "Well, okay, well, it's COVID and we're not going anywhere, so let's cheer for reunification and get this kid home and support mom and blah blah blah."
We had zero intention of adopting her.
So
it's just the way things worked. She was with us for 3 years, and
So
just the way things happened.
had you already adopted at that point?
Sam and Anaya,
Okay.
Maybe you should back up and start at like how we got into.
I think one question we always get is like, did you guys plan to adopt? Right? Like that's a pretty frequent question that we get with our family and our adoption is like, did you ever plan this? Was it something you sought out? And for us, it is just a combination of like Jeena and I talked about it when we first got married, that we were open to it. And a big
Not
reason
only
for
were we
that,
open to it, we were going to do it.
we were going to do it, but I think in the way we were going to do it wasn't like we weren't intentionally seeking it out at that time.
True. Yeah.
When it happened for us.
Yeah.
So we talked about it because my mother's adopted, my aunt's adopted.
Oh, wow.
Technically,
That's
my
a lot.
mother's 7 brothers and sisters were
All
in the
adopted.
foster
Wow.
system
Yeah.
and adopted. And so technically, our daughter's biological father adopted as well.
Oh yeah.
We don't talk about that a lot, or I think ever, but there's just a lot of adoption in my family. And so when we got married, it was just almost a natural conversation we went through of like, is this something we would ever do? Are we open to this? And we talked about it and said, yes, if there was like a child in need or there was a situation, we would definitely be open to adoption. And I mean, adoption at the end of the day, adoption is trauma.
yeah,
For sure.
So like we, at the end of the day, don't want to adopt because we would hope there's no kids that need adoption.
yeah,
Right. But living in the real world, and the world itself is trauma too, right?
Right.
We ended up adopting my niece because of the situation that she was in.
Did and that's a good question because and I think I saw a video where you said your eyes were open to that, so you decided that you weren't going to adopt again, right?
Yeah. So we decided we wouldn't adopt unless it was a kinship adoption, but we definitely want to foster in the future.
Yeah.
And that's kind of us too. Like we walked into this, and we'll admit this now, right? Because we've learned and we've listened to, adoptees and people, communicating about this, that when we walked into adoption, we were so self-centered about it, right? Like we were only considering like expanding our family, and my best friend's adopted and I had cousins who were adopted, and it just seems like a great way when you can't do it yourself and now looking back, we are like horrified about how that mindset was very much centered around us. And that I think easy to say now because we're sitting where we're sitting, but I think it also we did have in the beginning too a lot of compassion around first birth mothers, right? Like so, but I don't think enough to truly understand kind of where we sit today, right? Like we always knew we wanted open. So when we walked into our first adoption orientation in 2016, we walked out of there like big-eyed, like, no, whoa, we are not ready for this, right? Like, and the questions that they made you think about, like, race, mental health, substance abuse, they didn't want you trying on your own anymore and I never even thought like, well, why can't I continue to try to get pregnant? And then if we get picked, and they're like, well, a mother is planning a life for her child, and then you show up and say, hey, we can't adopt your baby because we're going to have our own. I didn't even think like what a tailspin that would then send this woman who's making this difficult, right? And so then we're like, oh gosh. So we went back home and we were like, we have a lot of stuff to consider here. And then got pregnant with our son, Caden, which then we found out at his anatomy scan, he had a fetal anomaly. So he was not going to live. And then delivered, he died at 20 weeks. Actually, we were going for a second opinion and we went in and knew that he was no longer living. So he just stayed and delivered. Thank you. And so I think after that, we then took time to kind of like grieve and.
Well, we had what, 6 losses up until that point. There's a lot of things that happened in our life that. Yeah. I think we were just done at that point. Like we can't. It was very traumatic and a lot of loss on our end. We were like, we can't do this anymore because it was too hard. It was just
a lot, and it was never. So then I think we walked back in the end of 2017 and just said, okay, like we're done. But again, I still think it was a very I just walked in there thinking I don't want to go through that myself, so I'm gonna leave it to somebody else and then hope that person comes along in this journey with it. It was just like I think it was a very weird mindset of kind of
thinking back on it. It's like how naive we were to think that way, and I think how far we've come. Like I would say right now we're not pro adoption at all, because we would hope that nobody, like you said, Drew, like hopefully no child would come in to need to be adopted.
But we know there's always going to be situations, right? Something. And then how do we change that to say that, how do you make something traumatic and terrible less traumatic and terrible, right? Like, so, I mean, I think in
So you mentioned like being naive in the process and those kind of things. And I remember Jeena and I went to kind of an adoption conference about 2 years ago. And one of the classes I did, they had the form to fill out to become a foster parent or adoptive parent. And in there, it was like, what do you want the sex of your baby to be? Yeah. What do you want the race of the baby to be? And for me, that was kind of like, took me back a little bit, just because my mindset wasn't, I want a specific baby that looks like this or this race. I was like, why would you ask those things? But it makes me think, with even being as you say naive as you guys were, what made you think open adoption and not so much like, I want this child and keep it in our house and
There's probably a few things, but I think you talk a lot about my best friend growing up was adopted internationally, and you had a best friend that was adopted, and you have a lot of stories of her that.
Yeah, I followed her with her journey to find her birth mother, right? Oh, wow. And again, she grew up thinking she was Native American, and come to find out when she got petitioned to have her birth records opened, she's Hispanic, she's Mexican, right? Wow. And I mean, what a jar for her to go from one direction and then have to pivot and then go in that direction, and then to come to find out that her mother was in a neighboring town, right? So I mean, so then watching her kind of navigate this relationship with this woman, and I just remember thinking, I don't know, I don't ever want my kid to not know where they came from, right? To maybe it's funny because her and I have a lot of these conversations, and like her viewpoint sometimes is still a little different than mine. And I'm always just like, why am I thinking this way? And you went through this process and you might still be thinking that way. But it's great to have somebody to kind of, you know, have those conversations with. And again, I think just, I had a village of people who helped raise me, right? Like my mom and dad were just solid foundations and they were always there, but it didn't mean that I wasn't at like my friend's mom's house laying on her couch. And, you know, he wasn't even there. And I'm talking to his mom about, you know, this, that, and the other. And then the neighborhood, I mean, just, I think being raised in the 80s and 90s, things were different. Like I was just off doing things and talking to people. And I worked at a dry
Leave in the
cleaners with
morning,
these
don't come home till night.
Yeah, like, I mean, I just had a lot of people who helped. I worked in a hair salon for a while, which you could get to when you talk about Brad doing hair, but I actually had a hair license and worked in a hair salon. And that community of women who just kind of have surrounded me and helped me grow into a person. So I knew I was never going to be everything to my kids. And so I needed somebody to
I think that's even like
help me raise my kids.
I think that's even more true when you have a transracial adoption, right? Like
Yeah.
we'll never be everything to our children because especially we don't like they're from a different culture and different background. And we hear this all the time, right? Like just love your child. Just love your child. That's all they need. And that's not enough. And what I think is like, love is the starting point because if you love your child, you will seek out and do anything
Find
that
the
you need for them.
resources. Well, I was just gonna say you're gonna like find the
You're
resources.
gonna find the resources. You're gonna make connections with people. You're
do
going
the uncomfortable things.
You're gonna hang out in spaces that might make you uncomfortable. You're gonna do the things and the work that needs to be done. So
Yeah, and I think I think too, like we talk a lot about this too, that a lot of our friends with Black children have a Black parent at home, whereas if they are treated differently at school or they're called names, which will happen, they can go home and talk to their parent, and we're like, so you
let
know,
me
like
call some people up.
yeah, let me have you go sit at, you know, so and so's house, and you can have this that like preparing ourselves for that. Like, how do you talk to your children that people who look like their parents are going to treat them badly, right?
Well, and they're treated much differently when we're out together than they'll be treated when they leave. Like, so that's our big thing is like, how do we prepare them for when they leave the safety and security of our house and our protection? Like, they're going to be navigating this world without. They're going to be looked at differently when they're out of our house, I guess, or out of our purview. So, how do we prepare them best to navigate that?
I feel like we deal with the same thing too, because when the kids are with you, completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll go to like O'Charlie's and all of a sudden free dessert and everything. And then they go out with me and it's like all the questions, all the stares. And so we've dealt with that. We've had a lot of talks with our kids because it is different when they're with, I mean, when we're together, I mean, we get different looks, but it just also feels so different when it's just me by myself and then Drew by himself with all the kiddos.
Yeah.
And it's a different feeling. I can't even like put my...
I do think I've had some advantage over traditional like transracial adoptees. And in the sense of like Jeena and I being together and going through engagement and marriage before our kids are birthed and growing up and stuff, I got exposed a lot more to Black culture and the traumas and stuff that you've had to deal with and overall before my kids get to that point. So I've worked through my whiteness and my barriers and pushing past those. So when my kids come to me, I can have more open conversations and connect a little bit more. And then I do have Jeena to be like, hey, we're going to have to go to mom and talk about this, you know? And vice versa. Jeena with Tiger, our white adoptive daughter, can send her over to me if needed and say, hey, I don't quite understand that. Go over to dad and we'll figure that out. So I think it's amazing that you guys have like the open mind that you do to reach out to community, to call friends. As Jeena would say, they're not an actual friend unless you can
call them and talk to them.
And they can come over.
I'm saying, you know, I've given a lot of like talks to like other like, adoption conventions and whatnot, and you'd always get like the people who were like, I don't see color, or like, why does it matter who I'm friends with? And the very first thing I was like the first person in your home or the first like black friend shouldn't be your child, right? And I'm like, and I want you to like start seeking out those, like becoming friends with them, but not in like the idea of like I'm becoming friends with them because like they serve a purpose.
I need you to help me with something.
I need you to help. Like I want you to be so close with them that if something happens and you're like stuck on the toilet and you need someone to go toilet paper, you can call your friend and be like, I need you to come over and like do this because I'm stuck here and no one else, like kind of thing. I want it to be like that. That's like a true friendship. And I don't want it to be where, because your child can feel the difference. They can see if it's like, oh, my mom's actually friends with them. Like they're hanging out. They're not always like talking about the same old when I'm around. They're like going off doing their thing. Like they can tell the difference. And I feel like a lot of, because I know I'm not the first person to say this, right? Have someone that you can trust, have someone that can be a role model to your child. And then that adoptive parent only sees that person as them serving that purpose for them, right? And so that child grows up and like, yeah, my parents, they have this like weird icky feeling like my parents only had this person around for this reason. And so then I've always just like, look, this person needs to become a true friend. Find someone that you can really be friends with, that if you need someone, like you're wearing like a one-piece suit and you need someone to help you pull it up, that you can actually call them up and like, please help me with this, and it not feel weird. Because not only will that person who is supposed to be helping your child or being that friend, they won't feel that ickiness, but your child won't feel that ickiness, because they will. They'll know. They'll kind of see like, oh, whenever we had like our family stuff, that person wasn't there. So I don't know. That was always my thing that I told other adoptive parents. It was like, that's the type of relationship you need to have with that person who's supposed to be part of your family, helping you understand more of what your child would go through, understand more about your child's culture, just understand your child like as overall like a person, but a black child or whatever race or ethnicity your child is. And I just wanted someone to really see that, because I didn't want people to think like, well, Jeena told me to make a black friend, so you're my black friend. Like that's not what I wanted. Like I want it to be like a true friendship.
So you're not gonna get the intricacies of if you don't have a real relationship with them, right?
Exactly.
And like we're in a weird spot right now because we moved before we had we had Bryce, but we moved to a pretty white community, and I mean, we didn't really think anything of it.
We were two white people. We had a white son. We didn't care. We didn't think about like we just didn't. We just I don't know.
We came from this really great, diverse neighborhood where I was there for like 10 years and we loved it there, but we just needed a bigger house and we moved. We didn't really think much of it. But now we're like, we need to move.
Can we go back there?
We need to move.
Right?
Like, there's like 6 black people in our neighborhood. And,
and we're always like those weird people. We're like hanging our Juneteenth flag and having the party and our Black Lives Matter flag, just like, where's diversity's coming in? And I'm like, God, I look like Forrest Gump, right? When he saw Lieutenant Dan, like, I'm that weird person that even the black people are like, we don't even want to be over there, right? So,
but we've been very intentional about like daycare and schools and like, so they're in in these communities where they have people that look like them, like, and that they're more of those people than there are people that look like us, because they see enough whiteness in our house.
Yeah, and I think too we're in this weird space too, because like they will start kindergarten when Bryce graduates, so he's a senior and they will be going into kindergarten. So like, and so our hope is in the next like X amount of years to just get out, right, and to go move to a community, a more diverse community, so that the neighbors will look more like them and that. But it's like right now, we can't uproot Bryce in 10th grade and say, hey, we're leaving. Like, nor are we gonna say you can stay in this house and we're gonna go live over
but
here.
Like right next to our district is like one of the most diverse in the state for us. So like, and we can do school choice there. So we're even if we don't move, we're gonna definitely do that. I mean, right now the interest rates are just.
Oh my God,
it's like,
Brad,
how can we just
talking about the interest rate? I'm like, I swear to God.
How can I get out of this 3% interest rate and take a
because the interest rate was
7.5%?
7.9% and your dad was scared about it.
We really have.
We could have done better, but the interest rates were high.
I'm glad it's not just my spouse, because Drew was just talking about, we can't do this. Like, Jeena, we could make this? I'm like, dude, just okay.
But we are at a point where like we're going to move.
We know we have to do that.
Because school's not just. I mean, school and all that stuff. It's great, but like we need to be in a community that when they walk down the street, like they see all kinds of different people that look like them. And
again, it's not our Juneteenth party where we're like trying to educate all these kind of like white neighbors, right? And all the people who come are the people who are open-minded and who are willing to learn and to do all these things. So it's like I want a Juneteenth party where like it's all everybody and we're all
it's celebrating more than teaching.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. So
and that's what it's felt like the last couple of years. Like we get this bounce house and we have all the people that are already.
We had a funny video where we did that, and like Sam woke up and he talked about his white ass parents and celebrating Juneteenth. And Anaya watched it the other day, and she walked around the house going, "White ass parents," and she was saying it. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like maybe we shouldn't have. We should just clean up our videos. Right?
Naya is our old soul. Like she just turned 4, but she's always had like these really powerful like personality traits and like facial expressions and like things
Gestures.
she says.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, you were a black grandma in your last life. Like I swear to God, like the things that you say, like she is amazing.
So have you guys seen any like positive or negative effects of an open adoption?
Oh yeah.
Like, because I do want to get into that a little bit of like, what have been the great things about open adoption? Like, what have been the things that are cringy about open adoption? And does one outweigh the other?
You used cringy wrong.
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah, I feel like you did.
Well,
No, I don't feel like I did.
Yeah, you totally
No, I
did.
didn't.
That's not cringy.
What can be cringy about open adoption?
I will say that we
Like, okay, here's an example. I would say
Maybe
why
difficult?
difficult. Yeah, what can be difficult about open adoption?
There are difficult
Well, I
things.
just think like if our adoptive child's biological parents smoked and we didn't smoke, and they came over and they just pulled out a cigarette and were smoking, it'd make things. It's not something we couldn't work through.
Yeah.
But it would make things awkward.
Yeah.
And it would just be like different lifestyles.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because we don't expect everyone to be exactly like us. And so that's what I'm just saying. Like what?
Okay.
I would.
And then if you're no, because I feel like you're giving me
I'm glad you're explaining
I
this.
feel like you're
Drew.
giving me
Explaining
crazy eyes over here. Especially you add another layer of being multicultural.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm just letting you dig yourself.
Yeah, let's go.
No, I will say that the one, just hands down, the positives, right? Like we just, I mean, and I think that when we kind of talked about, like you were talking about the black friend, that like our kids know we love their mothers, right? Like, so it isn't we talk about them every once in a while. It's like, we just did a video the other day where Anaya was blowing these dandelions, the things, and she, said something about love, and so I of course asked her to say it over again, and then I just said, who do you love? And she said her mom, Mama Emily, right? And I just, that's so beautiful, like I just embraced that because I love her too, right? And I think, and then I kept rewatching that video and seeing Anaya's face smile, like as soon as she saw my reaction was genuine. So like I think to me that brings them a piece that and there was not, speaking of her being her attitude, but like one day Anaya was giving me sass and she said something like, well, I love Mama Emily, and she kind of gave me a look and I was like, I do too. And then she kind of looked back at me and I'm like giving her looks and she's giving me her looks, and I said, and that's right? Like when you want to throw shade at me, like let's call Mama Emily and let's talk about it, right? Like she's gonna put you in your place. So, and like knowing you're kind of in that team together, right? And Jasmine, our 13-year-old has said this to me, and I shared it with her mom when she was visiting, and I said, Jasmine, is that weird feeling with like the hormones and the anger and the unsure, and she said, some days when I'm mad at you, I feel like running away to my mom, and I'm like, thank God, right? Like, thank goodness you will run to your mother, because it's better than somebody you meet on the internet.
Yeah.
And then the first call mom is going to make is to me and tell me you're safe.
Well,
Yeah.
because you have built that relationship
Yeah.
with the biological mom.
And then I'm like, tell me when you want me to come and pick her up, right? Like, so it's like, but she can stay there for as long as you want.
And you and Sarah, like you communicate with Sam's mom multiple times a day, like still to this day, like every day they're talking, and I don't do that as much with her, but like I was texting with her a couple days ago, like we're always in communication with each other, and I mean we come from different worlds completely, but we have a common goal is to like raise these secure confident.
The other day,
kids.
Sam, he got sick. And so he didn't go to school. And I was like, hey, Sam, I'm going to take your photo and send it to Mama Jade because I told her you didn't feel well. And he was like, but he made this like, oh, I'm so sick face. And I was like, okay. And, I sent it to her. I was like, Sam doesn't feel good today. She laughed about it. But, and it is that kind of, and I guess the difficult parts too are, just... You're right. Like we come from different backgrounds. We come from just different spaces. So, I don't know. I think that's hard, and it's hard because I think sometimes you might want them to be in a different space and, it's going to take a while to get there or something, something like that, that might be difficult or frustrating. Or like you were saying, like the other day for Anaya's birthday, we had people at our house, and I know this is so stupid, right? This is so dumb, but like everybody had their shoes on inside, and I was like, okay, I know you're only here like every once in a while, but should I tell you to take your shoes off? But
hey,
again,
Emily, I'm sorry, we didn't tell you that.
I think it actually might have been Oma and Opa who left their shoes on, but like things like that too, where I think I don't know, I think
really, I mean, at least to me, it sounds like you're not making your kids choose.
no,
Never.
my God,
Like the fact that they're like, I'm going to like my other mom's house, and you're like, yeah, go. It reminds me in like the same way of like when we were kids, when you like, I'm calling the police because they think that you've done something horrible, and like, I will call them for you, kind of thing. Because you're like, look, I know the police are gonna say the same thing. Like, dude, like I can give you a consequence. You're gonna like being grounded is like not the worst, and it's to me it sounds like your kids are like saying like, I'm gonna go there. In this way of like trying to be like this gotcha moment, and you're like, that sounds great. Yeah. At least I know she loves you and she'll keep you safe. Yeah. And I know she'll call me and tell me like, hey, they made it here. I'll let you know. I'll send them back over, kind of thing. And it's like the not dividing, because it's like, I don't know. In our relationship, we've always told our kids, if you ever come to one of us and I say no, you go to the other parent and they say yes, and you knew that the other person, that all of a sudden not only will it be a no, but now you've got a bigger consequence. Yeah. And so like it's like a united front where your kids know that like there's no choosing, you're not making them choose, but also you guys have a united front. You guys are like in this together, and it's a true village.
Yeah.
It's just like seeing when they come and spend the weekends with us or the week with us, like just seeing our kids' faces like light up, and like they just love having them over, and like that connection that they have together.
And I think that like a parenting, right? That seeing your kids happy is really what parenting is. I mean, you're not always going to make them happy, but what brings them joy, you do. And we kind of heard somebody say this at one point, like they're going to carry enough being an adopted child, especially Black children being raised by white. Like what can I do to alleviate some of their burden or some of the rocks in their backpack? And I think just keeping them connected to where they come from, is, if that's something I can do to help you, then I got, and it's easy for me to do that. But again, it takes a lot of, like, I'm not an insecure person. So I think I see a lot of parents, I mean, even in, oh my God, I'm in so many of these parenting groups on Facebook.
Oh, I used to be, then they kicked me out.
That's part of the reason.
Because you're speaking like...
That's part of the reason you started social media pages, is because Jeena was trying to find community when we adopted. And I remember you talking to me about this, and Jeena would talk to me about it and say, yeah, I got kicked out of another group. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, what did you do? Yeah. Like, you must have like cussed somebody out or like Facebook banned you or something. She's like, no, I told them they needed to take care of their kids' hair. Yeah. And I was like, you said it just like that though, right? Like you said those words. And she's like, no, like literally look through Drew. And it literally said like, hey, I know Black hair care is really important. Please DM me if you want any tips or anything like that. I'm here to help. Wow. That literally was the message.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And then like moderator, like people in the group would jump on it and be like, you leave her alone and she's doing her best. And what do you expect her to do? And then moderators be like, bye, and like block Jeena and kick her out.
Well, and in a lot of the foster care pages I'm in too, I have started, and I'm kind of walking on a little bit of eggshells, but like have making those comments of, why aren't they speaking to their, like, one was about like, well, mom just shows up at these events and then I can't bring the younger kids, and I'm like, do your kids know they have another mom? Like, why can't she be there? Like, oh, she has to go through you and get permission to go to a public event. Like, why isn't there that relationship to say, hey, I'll see you later. I'll see you at the track meet. And then maybe, like, we've heard that too, like, maybe you don't tell the children that she's going to be there, because then if she doesn't show up and or isn't there, then you don't want that disappointment. But then when you do see her there, you say, hey, kids, but why is there this insecurity to keep these children from their if it's a safe, and if you have that, build that relationship so you can have that, like, why
Right,
is
you're
there
talking
this
like
insecurity?
there's no restraining orders, there's no
for sure.
legal
Right.
issues like that they
Correct.
shouldn't be there,
Right.
and stuff like that. There's not the
Right.
scare of kidnap and all of that.
Because I feel like a lot of these people too, that, and I was just listening to this podcast, that starts as the adoptive parents, because we hold the power there. Like, we have the children, we hold the power. And so it's really kind of, I think, a lot on us to say, hey, like, how are you? Like, how are things going? Like, here's a picture of your child, or something to kind of open that up and kind of try to build that trust and bridge that gap, right? Like,
Yeah, it is on us. I mean, it's on us because we've dealt with this. Like, even though it's family, right?
Yeah.
Like, our daughter's biologically our niece, we still have to deal with like some of like the just ickiness of like this all.
Yeah.
And I remember with our daughter's like biological aunt. I mean, she's still her aunt, right?
Right.
And we were talking about decision we were going to make. And she's like, I feel like I can't tell you how I feel, because I think that like if I say something you don't like, you're just going to cut communication.
Yeah.
And I was like, like, we're family. Like, obviously we grew up very differently. Like, I kind of assume that you're going to have something different. I'm just like talking to you because I feel like you should be like involved, even if we're not going to take your advice, or even if we're not going to agree with it.
Yeah.
Like, you should be involved. And she was very hesitant, and she was like, I don't know. I really don't want to be cut out of her life, because I know I'm like, the idea of like having an open adoption was just like something that she knew was just so almost like foreign, or not something that a lot of people do, that she was like walking on this like tightrope of like, I don't want to say anything and make them mad. And I was like, no, go ahead and say it. Like, it's totally fine. It's not going to hurt me. You're going to be her aunt no matter what. And like the floodgates open, and she like said, and I was like, oh, thank you for like letting me know. And
But
she
stop
was,
talking.
no, it wasn't stop talking. It was like really good. Like, she was able to express all
good.
these things, and it was like, she felt like, and I don't mean it in a like a floodgates like in a bad way. It was like all these things that she was like wanting to tell us, like she's been waiting to tell us. She's told us in that moment as soon as I said it, and afterwards she's like, "Thank you for allowing me to say." Like, it's like she was like, "Thank you for allowing me to like say all these things," because she felt like as soon as she said them that I was gonna cut her off. I was like, "No, like." I mean, I fight with Drue's side of the family too. Like, we all have different opinions. It's totally fine. But like, she felt like she couldn't because
of you. There's no contract keeping that. It's just these emotions and these feelings, right? And we deal. I think Anaya's mother, kind of roundabout. I've been a part of that family for 20 some years. Anaya's mother, I was engaged to her uncle. Yeah, so that he died in 2002, and Emily was only like 3 years old, right? So she didn't really know her uncle, but I then have always kind of remained a part of the family. And so I was actually visiting the family in 2019 when I heard that Emily was pregnant. And I didn't know why they were telling me that. And Sam was not born yet, but I was like, okay. So I came home and I said to Brad, I said, I don't know if I was supposed to like say like, okay, like, cause they knew we were in the adoption process. And so, I messaged her parents, who would have been my brother and sister-in-law. Right. And I said, is Emily considering adoption? And they were like, no, but oh my gosh, wouldn't that be wonderful if it ended up that way? And I'm like, I don't know, like, okay. And then, so we had our first placement. Sam was 4 months old. And then I get this message from Anaya's mother, and she said, I'm 7 months pregnant. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. Like, will you do this? And so then I had to go to Brad again. And so at that time we would have had 3 under 2.
It was already like
We've done that.
I was like, what do you think? And he's like, no way. And I'm like, what? Like, so, I mean, it was just like, you know, and I said to Brad, I said, I can't imagine a world where Emily selects another family because we're afraid of 3 under 2. We're afraid of a little chaos. And that I see them at Christmas and she's not allowed to see her daughter. That a family would promise her everything and that she wouldn't be able to do that. And he was like,
that was
we
enough.
need to do that. Yeah.
But they've been really great to me too. Like they've treated me like family too. Like so they've come visit. They stay the night with us and like
So it's almost like a kinship kind of.
Yeah, it's
like
almost kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, I feel like Sam's mom walks that tightrope a little bit different than Emily, Anaya's mother does because we're kind of kinship. So I know Sam's mom probably does bite her tongue a lot with us, maybe. But sometimes she doesn't, and then sometimes it's like, what? And then we have to like go back to our corners, you know. But I feel like we've kind of created this relationship where we're like sisters or something. Where I hope she can be and is being honest with us, but I also know we squabble like relatives too, and then we have to kind of come back and figure it out. But again, we
like
come
for
from
betterment of the kids.
Yeah.
When we first met her,
Yeah.
I remember the day we met her. She wanted to have a closed adoption, so she was like, "I can't do this. I think it's gonna be better for it." And I just want to meet you. I just want to meet you guys, see who you are. And we had this like, I think it was like 2
That
hour
was the
conversation.
first mistake, right?
Yeah, like 2 hour conversation of like,
was like,
no,
well, that's not gonna
we
happen.
need you in this life,
Yeah.
and this is why we're doing this, and like you're gonna be okay. We got you.
Well, and she gets a lot of shame from her family, right? Like she's a black woman. And again, we did this video, right? I'm an adoptive mom, I'm a birth mom. And it's true. Like we did a funny one and then we did the real, the down and dirty, right? Like there weren't black families for her to choose from. Her family was not supportive of her. She's still to this day gets a lot of shame from them for her decision, which again reiterates why he's not with them or any of the family. So, I mean, it's this full circle. I mean, we would love for her to have Sam, you know, and then have him be a part of this whole other community.
I still commend you guys even for being that open.
Yeah.
Because like I know myself and like I have work to do and stuff, but even thinking of like our adoptive daughter, if the biological it's not possible, but if the biological parents were around and were able for that true reunification, I'd be so hesitant.
Yeah.
Like the longer yes.
I don't know if
The longer that she's with us and the more connected and just the more you build that relationship and that love, like not saying that I wouldn't, but it would be really hard.
Yeah.
For me, you know,
it's
so
different
even
for
to think
me
about,
because I like your brother. I like he's like. I feel like Justice is gonna look at this and go like, he was my favorite like brother-in-law. Like, not that I don't love Justice. Justice is like a true like baby brother. Like he annoys the boogers out of me, drives me nuts, talks way too much. Social battery is way too high. Justice, I really do love you. I really
Justice
do.
sounds cool.
Justice is awesome, but like Tiger's first dad, he was just like a true big brother, cared for us, would help us in every single way. And so like I only ever like I know he like I don't know, like I know he bugged you, like would beat you up and stuff like that and would wrestle. But also whenever we needed help, he was the first person to like help us, no question asked. And he was like he's a great dad.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying I would be hesitant because I felt like they couldn't take care of them or wouldn't love them or anything like that. It would literally be because that's our daughter. Like that's our daughter, and you're literally saying, hey, in some sense, you're reversing the role.
And
you
I
know
think
what
that,
I mean? And so
yeah, and I think
know.
our relationship to us feels so normal. And whenever I talk to people about it, they are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, we just do. Like that's what we do. I feel like some woman tasked me with raising their child, helping raise their child to be an amazing human. And so to me, I look at my children as like that I have this job to do and I have to give them a safe place and I have to that it's kind of like I wouldn't be a mother.
Lucky and blessed to be able to
I wouldn't
do
be
this.
a mother had they not asked me to do this. So I respect them in their place. So I almost don't look at them as that she's just my daughter. I am raising someone else's daughter as well, right? Like we're in this together. So I've never had this, and I think that that's what's funny, how a lot of people, because I think when we were adopting and we were talking about this openness and we were doing this, and I think my parents just so badly wanted me to be a mom and wanted me to like, and I feel like a mom. I mean, Bryce has been making me Mother's Day gifts since he was like 6 years old. So I've always kind of felt like a mom, but there's always been somebody else there, but I've never felt like less than a mom as well. Like, and we do this, I've always said this, right? Like if I can love more than one kid, why can't my kid love more than one mom and me not be weird about it? I don't know. I
think a lot of adoptive parents come into it with their own insecurities though. I feel like, and no shame on anybody, but I feel like you have to unpack that before like you can truly move on and have a healthy adoption experience. Like you can't be insecure as an adoptive parent.
And hopefully unpack that before you've
Hopefully
adopted.
you do that before. Exactly.
Drew. So I agree.
I mean, and I don't know. I looked at like we couldn't have kids. Like I always joke that Brad and I had severe acne growing up, so maybe the universe's way of saying like don't have kids because they'll just be one big zit. And that is like Brad did a AI thing where but he did this thing that showed like what our kid would look like together, you know. And I'm like, oh my god, our baby would be so handsome, you know. And so I think that is the one thing that I am sad that we never had a kid, that because we're like, oh, they'd win every competition because we're both competitive, and like they'd be such a great athlete, but they'd have zits and they'd be super funny.
They probably wouldn't do any of that.
They probably wouldn't do any of that, right? But so I think that is the one sad part. But then I think the other part is that too, that I hopefully am just raising a good human and just helping this person who in this place and time couldn't do it, right? Like, because really it was just this period of time where they weren't able to raise this child. It doesn't mean that their whole life they should never know what's going on with their child, right? Like it was just
like I want to be able to send Sam to go spend a couple weeks with his mom when he's older and like be able to do that and like have that experience.
And then have her kick him right back out, right? Like,
which I want everyone to understand too. Like a lot of people who are listening to this, I don't think a lot of people understand that like open adoption, there's nothing legally binding us to it. So you can go into like an adoption, like a first parent or birth parent can like, hey, I want to open adoption, and then the adoptive parent says, yes, we want that too. And then 6 months, a year.
You can even have it in writing. You can have it in the adoption paperwork.
Right?
And at the end of the day, the law is just, it doesn't protect anything
or,
around open adoption.
And even if we had laws, I mean, a lot of these first birth parents don't have the means either to like hire an attorney to go after these people to say, well, you're not sending me photos or you're not giving me access to my child. So it
happens a lot where that, like you said,
promises
they go into it and they make promises, and then a year later they cut contact.
And how do you explain that to your kid?
Yeah,
how do you explain that to your child when they're older and say, did you know my birth parent? Like, where do we come from? Like, maybe they do a DNA kit, or maybe they find them on social media or something. And then how do you as a parent say...
We've had guests in the past on this podcast that they didn't find out till mid-20s.
Oh, I think you guys know her. Adoptee Thoughts, Melissa. Greta Richards. She didn't find out she was 19.
That she was even adopted? Well, and my neighbor, growing up, she, she's pregnant. The neighbor's pregnant. And she all of a sudden didn't have a baby anymore. And so she made an adoption plan with a family that one of her relatives knew, so that she could then figured she would always be able to know where. And they up and moved to like South Carolina and never told their son that he was adopted. And then, once that gets blown out of the water, like what does that do to your relationship with your child as an adopted parent?
Yeah, almost.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, Sarah met her sister last year for the first time.
Oh, I met her in March.
Okay, this year. Fine.
That was just
in March.
like
she met her 50-year-old sister for the first time.
Well, and so in 2018 when we were, and again, this is like my mother, which is so weird because my mom was like not understanding why we wanted to do open, my own mother, and then come to find out she's a birth mother. Like my mother is a birth mother, and that in 1969 she was shipped off to California
to secretly have this baby.
And my dad was writing her letters, and he was gonna let's raise this baby together and we can do it. People in California were doing those kinds of things. And it was not his child, but he, you know, had met my mom at college and then she went off. And so they did Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, found my mom and sister. And so when in 2019, my mom reunited with her, and then, you know, we had babies and COVID and all this. So just this past March, Sam and I went to Texas because she's in Texas, and my parents also were going and I meet this sister, right?
Wow.
And I said to my mom at one point, I'm like, what would it have hurt for those people to have just sent you a photo? Like even a photo to just see what she looked like. And that's what she just wanted to know, where she came from, who she looked like, traits. I mean, it was... Yeah. Kids want to know, and she's 50 years old, right? She just wanted to know. So,
what was your mom's response when you asked her that?
I think she's unpacking a lot of stuff, right? And it's so great. I think what's so cool now is being able to have these conversations with my mom to just say, like, because a lot of stuff from my childhood started to make sense. You know, like once you found this out, you're like, okay, but you knew all along. Like, what? I thought it was your favorite. Like, you should have told me. But right, I think that, you know, they had a lot of foster children. My brother was born shortly after that. And I think there's a statistic that says, like, birth mothers who don't get therapy or counseling after they place a child end up pregnant. Like, it's some, like, 80% number within a year, right? They end up pregnant again, trying to fill that huge void that has now missing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so then there was my brother, like, born less than 2 years later. And so... but yeah, her and I being able to have these very open conversations about feelings, and her, like, being this birth mom, and like how much parenting can she do of this, you know, daughter of hers that she didn't have a hand in raising, right? Like feeling like she has to walk that tightrope too, because you don't want to mess anything up with that relationship. And I don't know. And it's so hard. Like, you have this sister and she lives thousands of miles away, and wishing we all lived on our commune together.
No, that is a ton to unpack.
Yeah.
And, you know, later in life and everything too.
So weird.
But I still commend your mom to be willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, because she could just be like, nope, didn't happen, or I don't know what you're talking about. And just
Keep stuffing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I said, did you ever think to tell us? And she said when her daughter turned 18, she thought maybe she would come and find her. And so I'm thinking, okay, I would have been about 8 years old. Like, what were we doing then? And then she said when she never showed up, she just, you know, kept it back down. So
I do want to hit one last subject.
It's a huge deal because
I think you just want me to do more hair.
Yes, I do. Because all we get is like,
Brad,
he does a good job.
Bad.
Yeah,
I'm getting a lot
you
of
make
girls in
yourself
trouble.
look bad because Drew washes her hair and does a great job at that. But then all of a sudden it's time for style, and he's like ponytail.
Yeah.
All three of our girls have ponytails.
I was that for a long time.
That would be me.
But we don't have anybody in our household that, like, grew up knowing how to do hair.
That's my problem. Jeena does their hair so good. I'm afraid to mess it up.
Right.
Like, I am dead serious. You are amazing at doing their hair. Ask anybody. Ask anybody on TikTok,
look at her
YouTube,
hair right now.
Instagram. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Just
beautiful.
compare our hair. Right?
Yeah.
And so when I go to do the girl's hair, I want to do it absolutely perfect. And you can't do it perfect if you've never done it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even get close. And it does take experience. And so I'm just, that is what I'm working on. But this is about Brad, not me.
I will ask you too, Drew, do you feel like if you tried to do it, she would correct you and make comments? Because Brad does this to me and it drives me nuts.
In my head,
So
maybe, but in reality, she'd probably just try to give me tips.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure how it would come across. She'd say something about, but overall, she'd be encouraging.
Yeah.
So she'd probably be like, you probably should do those lines a little better, but thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
But thank you for doing it.
I don't like the way you said that because that's how I sound. Because I barely talk about your lines.
Do we have to solve some problems here?
Yeah. We're going to need a little therapy after that. Just funny.
So I've watched a lot of your videos, and like, you are watching not only your two younger kids, because what were your age? 4 and...
They're both 4 an hour.
They're 6 months apart. So
Okay.
both
So you have like virtual twins like we do.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you also were washing one of your older kids' hair as well.
Our daughter, who's 13, like, she is so cute. Like, every week she wants me to wash her hair. Like, that's our thing. So, like, we'll set everything up, I'll get everything out, and I'll wash her hair, and it's like a total therapy session for her.
She
Like,
sees him doing it to the littles, and she's Puerto Rican and Polish, so she's got the curly hair and stuff too. So I think it was very probably vulnerable for her to ask Brad to do it because it's different. I mean, Brad's washing the babies in the bathtub, right? So her process is a little different. And then you also, when Sam and I were actually in Texas, Sam's sister was staying with us for a few weeks, and he tackled Ari's hair in the sink.
you might have seen that.
Yeah,
Ari
yeah,
has
that's
lots of hair.
Yeah.
You're like,
And
this is a little
4C
bit thicker.
Lots
than,
of 4C hair, and I was sweating. And I mean, Sam has similar texture, but it's not as long. So it's like I can get through Sam's hair, no problem. But then I was like, this is another level. I can't do this.
Yeah.
But I did it, and I was able to like get. I did twists in her hair, which I didn't show, but I did do like, I washed it, detangled it, conditioned it. I know how to do that now. Like I can do that on anybody's hair. But I was sweating. Like it was.
It's a lot. Like I have I want to say like 4A, 4B hair. Like it's type 4.
Yeah.
But I have like medium density, so I don't have as thick as some. But it's a lot sometimes. And you have to take it in sections and be like, all right, let's
I
take a
learned
break.
that.
Yeah.
I learned that because I didn't do that originally because I don't have to do it for my other kids. So and then when I was, we have this relationship with this braider that we take Sam to, and I took her to, and she was like, you gotta section it out. What do you like? You can't do that all.
So how long did this process take you of learning to take care of their hair? Is it just something that gradually happened?
Yeah.
or,
So I remember specifically the first hair video I posted was of Naya, and it was so vulnerable because I didn't know what the hell I was doing at all. Like I have gotten a lot of advice from like Sam's mom. Like she was the one that's really helped me on kind of hair care journey. But I always remember like being very vulnerable about that. But I was very intentional because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that my community is going to help me. So like I posted this video, and sure enough, I got lots of like, what are you doing? Yeah. I put a flower on in the middle of her. I had 2 ponies, I think, and I put a flower right in the middle of her hair. I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I got this stuff. I'm just gonna do it, and she was fine. But like, they're like, what are you doing putting that flower in the middle of her head, like not even on her ponies or anything? But like after that, hundreds of my community in my DMs are like, not making fun of me, they're helping me, like giving me guidance, and like that was kind of the first moment I was like, wow, this is really what I was hoping to have from this social media channel, right? And so it also was like, it's gonna hold me accountable by posting these videos because I'm gonna hopefully get better, but I'm gonna get more tips along the way, and like if I keep posting videos, it's gonna make me hold myself accountable to actually learning more and like doing better. So
Do you ever feel like because you're a guy doing your kid's hair that, I don't know, like the type of comments that you get? Because I feel like I've watched other adoptive parents who are doing their Black children's hair, and if it's a woman, depending on like the skill level, like there may be like awesome comments, and then there may be some like not so, and I don't know if I want to say like not so awesome comments, because I do feel like sometimes that mom may not be like, she may not know what she's doing, and so then they mean well, but then maybe the way that it comes across. I mean, I also feel like she probably is getting some like not so nice comments, because I know we get a lot of the like, I get the you should never adopted a white child, and I'm sure you guys get the
always,
very opposite as well. But do you feel like you get different comments because you're a guy doing?
Like they're more gentle.
I think
maybe gentle, or maybe just like different comments. I don't know.
We all kinds of different, right? Like I think there's a lot of guys that are like, hair should be done by mom. So there's a lot of that, which it doesn't bother me. Like I'm pretty secure in my masculinity. I don't worry about that. But we also, I mean, on top of like the people who are very like helpful, there's always gonna be people, like you said, that are negative, and I don't generally give them a lot of attention unless I am in a mood and I want to like make an example of them. I have time for them today, and I'm gonna do a video about it. But I have to slow down on that because I don't generally like the direction that it goes. But sometimes I'm in a mood and I just feel like
I understand that. If anyone understands that, I understand.
It's funny because when Brad goes to the barber, I have to cut the top of Brad's hair and Bryce, right? So like the other day, thank God Bryce went to the barber because he was going to prom and he needed his haircut, and it was just like all down in his face. And then Brad was like, you need to cut Bryce's hair and then Q can fade it up. And I'm like, well, no, Q needs to fade it up and then I need to cut because then I follow a guide. And he's like, well, you need to start. I'm like, oh my God. So like I have to cut the top of the hair, but I like the baby's hair free. And I think it's another thing about white people and understanding Black culture, right? That like if a white person had to do black hair every day, I think our whole world would be different. Like if white people had to even walk a day having four curl pattern hair, the whole world would be different. We couldn't do it. We would never be able to do it. We wouldn't. We would whine, we'd complain, bonnets would be normalized all the time. And so just when we started walking into this, because again, Sam's hair didn't curl up until probably he was a good 8 months, a year old, that it was like, holy what? Like, oh my goodness, right? And I mean, he's a boy, so it was easier. And then when Anaya's curls started coming in, it was like, what is this curl pattern going to look like, right? Her mom is blonde hair, blue eyes. Her dad is this big, strong Black man. Like, what is her hair pattern going to look like? So it was kind of this like question, but it is one of the most admirable and respectful things of Black women and their hair, right? That white people need to learn and understand is what it takes to care for that, because it is mind-blowing. It is unbelievable. And especially too having Ari at her house, and she would just wear her fro out and big, and I'm like, you look awesome. Like, you look awesome, because again, having to fix that, having to, like take care of that, having to put a bonnet over that, having to put it in a protective style. I mean, it was just, she should be able to just wear it free, right? Like you should just, and not get negativity and comments and microaggressions and all of that, because, but.
And Naya, like we don't style her hair all the time. I
love her curls free.
I moisturize it and I get the curls right, but she loves wearing her curls out, and I love that.
Yeah.
And we're always very intentional about like, pouring into her so she feels good about her hair, like no matter how it looks, but she loves her curls and I love that. But now she's starting to ask me like, hey Dad, can you do my hair in a style?
Then Sam wants it, right? Like, so Sam wants, when he sees Anaya getting all the attention from Dad and spending all this time doing hair, then he wants that
like, I
too,
want bows
right?
in my hair.
I'm like, how about we build magnet tiles? I don't know. I'll spend some time with you. Like, I don't know.
So I'll go put up some beads in his hair and he's all happy for a day. But
Wait, what kind of styles is your daughter asking for now? If she's looking for less like afro or wash and goes?
Right. Well, I mean, most of the time she just says, I want my curls out. So
Okay.
we'll just get her curls hydrated and like that. But lately she just wants to be more like, she just wants to have more beads in her hair and barrettes and ballies and all this other stuff that she was, because she likes waving her hair around and having them like.
Oh, she says because when I was a kid, that was one of the things that I wanted to stay away from, because they would whack you in the face.
They hurt.
Right?
They hurt so bad.
Brad put a
loves
bolly
them.
in the back of her hair, and I was like, what are you thinking? Like, she can't sleep with that in the back of her hair. And then you were like,
Yes, we can. We
She
just
just-
do it uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable when we do it.
She loves like little beads. She likes being fancy and like having like different things. So, but when I did, Gabby bows, have you seen them before?
Yes.
She sent us some stuff a few weeks ago, and so that's the most recent hair video I did was just to promote them, and she just loved like shaking her head out and have all the barrettes in her face, and she just loved it so much.
Have you seen I think it's Broke Friends. I'll have to like I'll put it up somewhere. They have the rubber beads.
Oh,
so
yeah,
they don't
I've seen
hurt.
those,
I
yeah.
just ordered some. I may send you guys some. I ordered a little extra.
Like you're missing out on core memories.
What?
Is
The
there
rubber?
only ever rubber?
They don't hurt.
well,
They don't have it hurt.
Yeah.
like having barrettes just but like Brad will be putting these in Anaya's hair, sometimes the ones that just like pop, like pop open.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh God, thinking how even growing up my mom would just drag those across my scalp, and I'd just be like, oh, don't do that to her, like don't do that to her scalp. Popping it on her head. I don't
She
know.
loves it. She loves
But
it.
I think with Jasmine, with the oldest one, you just wash her hair.
Yeah, she just
and
wants
condition it
she just
and
wants
stuff.
the attention, like
Yeah.
having the connection time, and
Yeah.
The intention time, but also do you not realize how much like upper body strength I have to have? Like there have been times, this is going to be really like a vulnerable moment. There have been times I'm in the shower and I'm just standing there and I'm just like, I'm so over this. I'm like, the water's cold.
Yeah.
The water's cold. My arm hurts. I'm like, I ran out of conditioner and I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this. And I'm not done. I still have a whole half of my head that I need to do. And I'm just like, I'm over this. Like, I'm tired of being butt naked in the shower trying to to detangle my hair. And so like the idea of like, I wish that my hairstylist was closer and I wish that I could find like an appointment because she's booked up all the time, that I could have someone do it for me all the time because Drue won't do it for me. And
True. Because this ties in a little bit to like washing hair in the sink. Like,
yes,
like,
it's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier for parents to do that for their kids, right? And so like we're having these long detangling sessions and like if I'm in the bathtub doing that, I'm standing over my back, like
yeah,
it hurts.
And they're the water's getting cold.
Yes.
The sink, you don't have that same issue where
right.
the water
turn
gets
it on,
cold.
turn it off, and
Yeah. So I agree.
It's hard though for some people to understand because as soon as like I get the same comments all the time, and now even with like Tiger, like it does not take as long, but it's easier. It's way easier because like if you have a kid who's just like, I don't want the water in my face.
Yeah.
I'm over like you don't have to deal with the same kind of stuff.
Oh my God! Every time spraying Nye's hair, it's like, oh, I'm cold, man. I'm cold. I need a blanket, so I have to get a blanket around her neck so it's not spraying on her neck. But I mean, she really loves doing it now. Like I would recommend any dad to jump in because I feel like it's really bonded us together more. Like I love when she comes to me like, Dad, will you do my hair? And so it's just a really like special connection time. And sometimes it's stressful because she's trying to get up or like I'm done and I'm like, I'm only halfway done with your hair. I'm sorry, but you can take a break.
Like, why did I ask for this again?
Well, I appreciate you guys sharing your journey with us today. I wish we could stay and just talk all day, but we're a little over already.
Yeah.
So it's amazing talking to you guys. You guys are amazing people. It's great to meet you in person and hear your story in person. I can really see and hear and feel the emotions coming off, specifically Brad, when you're talking about Sam and hair care and just the journey that you guys have been through. So I appreciate you guys being vulnerable and sharing and being open-minded.
We appreciate y'all having us here. It was so much fun to meet you. And like I feel like we're on social media, right? And so we see each other's videos all the time. I feel like we know each other.
Yeah.
But we don't. So I'm really glad that we connected for one.
Yeah, of course.
I hope that we keep this connection going.
And I just want to tell everybody that Brad was so worried he wouldn't say anything today on this podcast because he's such an introvert. So he's like, you're gonna have to do all the talking.
The introverted extrovert introvert is what I am. Yeah.
So I'm
proud.
proud.
If people want to continue to follow y'all's journey, where can they find you guys?
Our socials are That Dad Love on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
All right, perfect.
We'll also make sure that we'll put it in the description so that if anyone wants to follow you guys, they definitely can follow your journey.
Thank you.
So I know a lot of people will be interested in seeing a dad like do their kids' hair and like kill it. So that way when you guys see Brad, y'all can go back to our page and say, Drue, what's up?
And if you have any tips,
I knew it was coming. That's so funny. All right. Thanks for being an example for me, Brad. I appreciate it.
Sorry, Drue. You're on your own on that one.